Did you know thousands of children were sexually abused in South Dakota, and there's nothing they can do about it? But how can that be? Did you know that under South Dakota law, if your son or daughter is sexually abused at a church, school, camp, you only have 3 years to sue, even if they knew of the abuse? And you only have about 7 years to pursue criminal charges. So let's see how that would impact cases we recognize nationally. Let's take a look at the Nassar case. In 1998, a survivor complained to officials at Michigan State University, where Nassar worked, about sexual abuse. But the university took no action, and it wasn't until 2018, 20 years later, that the complaints of the gymnasts were heard nationwide and taken seriously. Lawsuits were filed against the university and USA Gymnastics for being slow to act to the gymnasts' complaints of abuse. Let's compare the Nassar case to the case of the 9 little girls. Around the 1970s, one of the 9 little girls complained of abuse by the nuns, and she was sent to a state mental hospital by the church-run boarding school where the 9 little girls lived. Another student told a nun during a counseling session that she was abused by the school principal. The counselor did not take any action, but instead told the girl she should report it to the bishop's office herself. Multiple letters in the 1970s and 80s between church officials document rape and molestation of children. There is evidence that a student told the chancery of the Sioux Falls Diocese of the abuse, but no further action was taken. In the 1990s, information about sexual abuse by a brother from St. Joseph's becomes public. Just 15 years later, the 9 little girls and many other survivors filed suit, just as the Nassar gymnasts did. But while their case was pending in the courts, the church had the law changed to block survivors. In 2015, the court ultimately found that the victims of abuse cannot sue the church. They found that the church did not have a duty of care for the children at the school. They also found that the students did not file their cases in time, and that there was no liability for their employees who work there that abused the children. The 9 little girls case is very similar to the Nassar case. In the Nassar case, sexual abuse occurred by someone the girls trusted. The girls complained, but no one listened until decades later, just like the 9 little girls case. So why did they have such different results? Isn't it startling to think that in South Dakota, the Nassar gymnasts would not have been able to file suit against the university or the gymnastic team? Because you can't file suit against an organization unless it's within 3 years of the abuse. Here's the exact language from the court case. Can we all agree that rape of a child is one of the worst, if not the worst, crimes in society? Survivors have told me that murder is not the worst crime because they would rather have been killed than have suffered the rape and torture they endured and the mental and psychological damage they continue to suffer for the rest of their lifetimes. So can we agree that rape of a child is the worst crime in society? Can we also agree to hold organizations like schools, camps, and churches accountable if there is sufficient evidence that they knew of the abuse? If a group knows of abuse and doesn't let anyone know to prevent predators from continuing, then they should be held accountable, period. Don't you think this is the right thing to do to protect our children? This is the right thing to do. So tell the lawmakers that you want them to do the right thing. We have strength in numbers. Please, we need your support. Tell South Dakota representatives they need to change the laws to protect our children. Contact Tim Johns, Speaker Stephen Haugaard, and Senator Chris Langer. And be sure to follow us on Facebook at 9littlegirls, the number 9littlegirls. We're also at Twitter and Instagram at the same address. Thank you so much.